Cool Hall here on LBC. It's got a nice ring to it, and who knows, if the Conservative candidate is successful in next year's London mayoral election, it might even become a regular feature. But it's great to welcome the Conservative candidate, Susan Hall, to take your calls. And one question before we go to the first caller from me. Dave, you will be the first caller. Thanks for coming in, Susan Hall. Good to see you.
It's good to see you as well.
Why do you want to be mayor?
Because it's the greatest city in the world. Things are not going right here at all. Sadiq Khan, I think, has let us all down badly, and I want to put things right with some common sense policies.
Let's see what listeners make of it. Dave's in Harrow. You're through to Susan Hall. Go ahead, Dave.
Good morning. I understand that your one policy is to scrap the ULEZ on day one if you come into office. So what do you propose to do as an alternative to deal with the capital's lethal air pollution problem?
OK, hello, Dave. Thank you for calling in. The ULEZ expansion is what I would scrap on day one, not the original ULEZ or even the one that goes to the North and South Circular, the expansion of the ULEZ. And you live in Harrow, as I do, so you'll know that we do not have the transport offer, the public transport offer that they do in central London. So if we look to see if there are any pockets of bad air quality, I've found £50 million in an environmental budget in City Hall that we would put that councils would bid into to rectify what is causing that hotspot, if you like. But it's for whatever Sadiq Khan says, his own impact assessment showed that the extended ULEZ would make virtually no difference at all to air quality. So it's just nothing but a tax grab from him. The commissioner of the TfL admitted that they had put £200 million into the budget from fines that they will make from people that have to pay their £12.50 and the fines, of course. And that's nothing but a tax grab on poorer people.
Let's just clarify. So there'd be no statutory consultation?
No,
as of day one?
No. If people vote for me, they will get ULEZ. The ULEZ expansion will be stopped on day one.
Okay, so no cost. And the £150 million it's cost to date will be written off?
No, the cameras, and this is slightly controversial. I absolutely give my word, I would not use the cameras for pay per mile because, of course, that's where he's going with all of this.
Can you prove that?
What, that I won't do it?
No, that he's going for that he, being Sadiq Khan, is going
Fair
to pay
enough.
per mile.
He's actually employing people to look at the software to do it at the moment. It's been admitted in actual committee meetings.
What would you use the cameras for?
I would give them to the police. They've all got ANPR, obviously, which is automatic number plate reading, and it's a massive tool for the police to know if they've got somebody they're looking for in a vehicle, they could recognise whether they were leaving or entering London.
What about the budgetary shortfall? I understand ULEZ is expected to provide £200 million a year for TfL. Some of that will obviously stay because you're not getting the whole of it. But what about the shortfall? How will you make the money up?
The mayor has got a £21 billion budget. It's a massive budget. He tends to waste money. We're working on a document at the moment to see where things could be reduced, if you like, or removed. At the end of the day, Nick...
So you're going to have to rob from somewhere else to pay for this?
Well, this I would call a robbery in itself because it's taking from the poorest people in London at the moment. And that's unacceptable for any politician to tax the poorest. And that's exactly what this tax is.
Quick response from the caller, Dave. Your response to what you've heard from Susan Hall?
Well, I just put a question. She says that the poorest people are those. The poorest people actually are the ones who are suffering, who don't even drive a car, who have to suffer living in lethal air every day.
Dave, I live in Harrow. We both know that the air quality in Harrow is not as Sadiq Khan is portraying it. It's good. And if there are any pockets where there is air pollution, councils can bid into that fund that I will put in place to deal with it. It could be a bus route. It could be the way the pavement's built out. It could even be that, but not in Harrow because we've got rid of them. It could be an LTN, a low traffic neighbourhood, because they are causing nothing but pollution, and yet Sadiq Khan approves of those.
Lastly, you are aware a young woman in the London Borough of Lewisham living in Catford lost her life due to toxic air in this city.
And it's very sad, and I've spoken to her mother. It's very sad that anybody would lose their life, and bless her, she had very, very bad asthma. I accept that, and that has happened. But equally, if you saw some of the emails, Nick, I'm getting from people that are now in a dreadful state because they don't know what to do. They can't get to work. They
nothing
can't get
gets near the life of a schoolgirl, does it?
it is a very sad situation that young lady lost her life. I grant you that. But equally, we're now putting people in a position that they don't know what to do with themselves. They're in a shocking state. And we're looking at outer London. Outer London has a different offer completely to inner London, and we both know that, Nick.
Let's go. Thanks, Dave. Hassan is in Westminster. Hassan, you're through to Susan Hall. Go ahead. Good morning. Hassan, can you hear me? Hassan, your question?
Yes, hi there. The question was, are you comfortable that HS2 should start from Old Oak rather than Euston? And if the levelling up agenda collapses by the Tory government, what implications does it have for London congestion, more people having to move here and put pressure on our public services?
Right. First of all, hello, Hassan. Thank you for calling in. Am I comfortable with it? I tell you what I'm probably not comfortable with, but I don't know the details, obviously, because this is government. I'm not comfortable that they're probably trying to negotiate the fact that this has gone up by billions and billions. And it doesn't help when lots of politicians are saying, whatever happens, we've got to keep it. If you're going into negotiations with costs going up and up and up, that your hands are tied somewhat when everybody's screaming, whatever it costs, we've got to do it. At the end of the day, the government's in a very difficult position. It's taxpayers' money that's going to be paying for this. It's gone up by billions and billions. Do I want it for London? Of course. I want the very best for London.
Old Oak Common or Euston?
Well,
where should the line start or finish?
Well, we would both obviously prefer it to come into Euston. And, we'd like the whole thing to have gone ahead. But this is going up by billions and billions of pounds. And if the government...
That's Conservative government administration, isn't it?
Well, it's got nothing to do with the mayoralty.
No, but it's to do with central government.
Yes, it is. And they've got to watch taxpayers' money, which is why I say...
But shouldn't they have been watching it for the past 5 years?
Well, I assume they have. I don't know. I don't know at what point they knew it was going up. I know there was an absolute...
Well, how frustrated are you with central government over this?
I'm frustrated by very many things. I'm mostly frustrated by Sadiq Khan, who is ruining London.
OK, I take that on board, and you have made that point, but I try again. How frustrated are you by this possible? The line will either begin or end, whichever way you want to, at Old Oak Common. That's not what you want for London, is it?
No, it isn't. But and I want the thing to go ahead. Of course I do. But equally, the government have got to watch to see how much it's costing. And if they're trying to negotiate now with everybody saying it doesn't matter how much it costs, it's got to go ahead, it would put them in a difficult position.
Just lastly on this, how many conversations have you had with the Prime Minister or the Chancellor over this?
Over this particular issue, nothing. At the moment, I am just fighting London and dealing with that.
Have they not contacted you?
Not on this specific issue. Because, to be fair, they've got much bigger things to think about at the moment. At the moment, this is a political contest. They are running the country.
Why aren't you speaking at the Conservative conference on the weekend?
And everybody's making a thing about this. It really doesn't bother me at all.
Every other candidate has. Stephen Norris, Boris Johnson. Why not Susan Hall?
Well, because, to be honest with you, Nick, I'm far more grateful to be on your show talking to Londoners, genuinely. Because it's Londoners I need to persuade that I can make London a better place. Talking at conference to Conservatives isn't going to get me more votes to get me into London, to make London better again. I genuinely, it doesn't bother me at all.
But you need the warm embrace of the party to help you. How warm is their embrace?
Yes, I cannot tell you how helpful Central Office are being. They genuinely are. This is something that the media are far more concerned about. It genuinely doesn't bother me one iota. Put me in a room full of people I can talk to, especially Londoners. I'm very, very happy.
Right. OK, Lauren's in Harrow. Let's go to another question. Lauren, your question to Susan Hall.
Hi, thank you. Yes, my name's Lauren. I'm from the Jewish community, and I was really disturbed to see you tweet in support of what Katie Hopkins said, referring to London under Sadiq Mayor as Londistan, suggesting that, our Muslim friends and neighbours are taking over London. So I was wondering, with that in mind, how are you planning to represent the great Muslim community of London?
Hello, Lauren. Well, actually, I'm glad you brought this up, because when I retweeted... Oh, no, I think I liked it. I don't know. This was a long time ago. that wasn't in my mind, and I'm glad you've given me the opportunity to say.
I think
that,
you did. You retweeted.
Did I retweet? I have no idea.
It's rather concerning. I have to tell you what you did. But anyway, and apologies for the language. Katie Hopkins called the London mayor, quotes, "our nipple height mayor of Londonistan," and you replied, "Thank you, Katie." Why?
I can't remember doing that. Probably because I'm so.
You can't remember doing that.
No, of course not. Nick, I tweet, or used to.
Do you remember liking a tweet that had the language, "It's never too late to get London back," with a picture of Enoch Powell?
Yes, and I've explained that. It's never too late, which is what I'm saying to you. It is not too late to make London better again. We've got traffic jams left, right and centre. We've got the ULEZ expansion.
Are you a fan of Enoch Powell?
No, of course not.
But why? I don't understand. There was a picture of him, and you liked that tweet.
I know. If you're a serial tweeter, you tend to go through liking all sorts of things, and you sometimes read things and don't see it. If anybody is offended, then obviously I would apologise. But
you can't see why people would be offended with that. You say if anyone is offended.
Well,
I have to explain to you the offence.
No, because it wasn't intended, and this is the thing. If anybody
when you called Gemma Collins a stupid fat blonde woman, was that intended?
I was asking a question to Twitter as to who is this person, and yeah, I mean I've apologised for that as well. I mean people will throw these tweets at me, and I accept it. And if I've offended anybody, I apologise.
You keep saying "if" as if you can't realise that there is offence, Susan Hall.
Because
I'm sorry to say it again. Calling someone a stupid fat blonde woman, liking a picture of Enoch Powell, talking about the mayor. Apologies again. A nipple height mayor. You seem surprised people are offended.
Some people are, and some people aren't. Those that are offended, I didn't intend to cause any offence at all. But going back to Lauren,
to the broader question: can you represent Muslims? Can you represent women? Can you represent people? Susan Hall.
Yes, of course I can.
Explain to Lauren how.
And going back to Lauren,
yes,
of course
please.
We've got an incredible Muslim community. We really do. And if I go back to saying if. To whoever was offended, I most sincerely apologise. I spent a lot of time in mosques, etc., because in London we're very, very lucky. We've got a really good multicultural community out there, and it brings extra depth to London.
Lauren, quick response from you before we move on.
I'm not going to lie. I'm not quite convinced. I think anyone in London from any minority group should be worried.
All right. OK, thank you for that. Can I take you to today's Sun newspaper, Susan Hall, where the poll there shows that you are now just 3 points behind London Mayor Sadiq Khan, some of this possibly being reference to ULEZ. This is quite a change, and quite a change from the Conservatives nationally, for you to be so close, and there's still many months to go. The support you are getting, what do you put that down to?
I think people do like it if you're straight talking, and I am, and I will say things that people don't like at times, and perhaps they're quite right to not like some of the things I say. But I am pointing out that Sadiq Khan, in my view, is not fit to be mayor. If you look at the problems and the issues in London, we've got the greatest city in the world, and he is not a competent mayor, in my view.
When it comes to the race next year, would you relish going up against Jeremy Corbyn if he was to run as an independent? There's some chatter about that.
I'll go up against anybody, Nick, because I want this job. I want to make London better.
You're confident you could beat Mr. Corbyn as well?
Yes.
OK, let's go to another call. Oscar in Brixton. Oscar, you're through to Susan Hall. Go ahead.
Hi, Nick. Thank you so much for taking my question. So last month there was a homophobic stabbing outside a gay bar in Clapham. This week there has been several comments made by the Home Secretary about gay people, about their right to immigrate, and also about police and woke policing with drag queens. I don't really feel like this government cares about me or gay people. So my question is, what are you going to be doing for the LGBTQ plus people of London?
Susan Hall.
Hello, Oscar. I believe there was a speech yesterday. I haven't heard it yet. I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
There was a speech yesterday made by Home Secretary Suella Braverman. Yes, it was over in Washington, and it talked about the challenge of migration to the whole of Europe. It talked about how some people are finding it too easy. They can claim that they can get access to a country by claiming that they're homosexual, by saying that they're a woman. And she also said that multiculturalism is a failed dogma. Surprised you haven't had sight of that, Susan.
No, well, I was working till late last night, and I had to and I had to be up very early this morning.
Okay, well, let's come to
let's
come to Oscar's question. What would you do for the LGBT plus community in London?
Okay, so I've met with the LGBT plus community at the Conservatives, and they are going to come and talk to me about things that would make a difference for their community. Obviously, we have to look at nightlife and the gay bars, etc., etc. There's been issues there. That's something that's been brought up to me. But also, we have to look around policing. We have to make sure that all the different communities are safe. And I do understand why you would not feel particularly safe at the moment. Policing is going to be a major thing that I'll be talking about during this run up to the mayoralty. You need to be kept safe. You need to feel safer, as do women on the streets. And I really feel for you, because at the moment, I believe you don't.
Let's go back to Oscar. Oscar, you've chosen to tell me that you're gay. Do you feel less safe over recent years? How would you sum it up, Oscar?
I think what was interesting for me personally is when the stabbing happened, it wasn't the government who were talking or making sure my community was safe. It was my friends. It was people in the community who were texting each other to say, make sure you get an Uber home. Yeah. Make sure that you're not walking out home alone at night. And I think it's absolutely disgusting that this government hasn't done enough. You know, has the Equalities Minister spoken about it? Has Sadiq Khan spoken about it? You know, I just don't really feel like Suella Braverman really knows what's going on.
More on Suella Braverman in a second. Sadiq Khan, do you think he's doing enough in this field, Susan Hall?
No, because he's not. He hasn't got control of the police whatsoever. We've got more frontline police officers now than we've ever had. Where are they? We are not seeing them on the streets. That his whole oversight of policing in London, this is the first time the Metropolitan Police have ever been put in special measures. The first time ever, Nick. And policing is a massive part of what I want to put right in London, because too many people don't feel safe. Women are saying the same to me as Oscar is saying.
All right. Oscar, you look after yourself. Just finally, before we move on, coming back to the Suella Braverman speech that you've not been able to hear yet, but she talked about the fact that migration to the UK and Europe in the past 25 years had been, and I quote, too much too quick. There was not enough thought given to integration. Rather, they thought of the failed dogma of multiculturalism. Is multiculturalism a failed dogma?
You see, we're in London. In London, multiculturalism is a good thing. I mean, I absolutely approve.
When you say it's a good thing, give me my listeners.
Because it makes our city richer in so many different ways. Legal immigration is a really good thing, and we need it for jobs, etc.
Well, our hospitals wouldn't run without it.
Exactly. But illegal immigration is wrong, and that's what we really need to deal with. But in London, we have got so many different communities, and we benefit from that.
And is it the challenge that the Home Secretary is saying, a European and Western challenge? Hundreds of millions, but not all seeking to get to the UK. But do you see it as that challenge? What does it mean for London?
Well, it is a challenge in as much as it's a massive pressure on all the services. Right. And in London, of course, we've got a massive housing problem.
Can I ask you a personal question here? You mentioned safety on the streets. I hope you don't mind me asking this. Do you feel safe walking home in London at night?
No, not anymore.
What are your concerns?
You ask most women, if you're walking along at night and you can hear somebody behind you, you think, who's that? Do you know what I mean? You do. And it's funny because I've spoken to men and they don't feel that. I spoke to a friend of mine and he said whenever he walks home from the pub drunk, he's not in the least concerned who's around him. He feels perfectly all right. Women don't. And I'm talking to young women in the office and they carry their keys with the sharp bit hanging out their hands, so that and the number of people I've said that to in various meetings, and they say, well, I do that, I do that. Well, since I heard that, yes, I did. I hadn't thought about it, but you do feel far more threatened, and the person behind you is almost certainly going to be fine. It's just at night and the echo of the steps, and you look behind you and you think, ooh.
When did this understandable nervousness start?
I would say in the last 5 years I've been more concerned than I've been before.
What would you do as mayor as regards policing?
We need more. We need more of our officers on the streets. We have more.
Where are you going to take them from?
Well, I tell you what, so I keep asking the question, where are they? And one of the answers that came back to me last week or the week before was university. They're seconded to university. I have, in all the years I've been dealing with the police, I have never heard that before. And I asked a senior officer, what's that all about? And she said, oh, well, yes, they're given time off to go to university. So I'm asking official questions because sometimes some of these units are 50% understaffed, not because there isn't staff there, but because they're off sick, they've been seconded to something else, they're pulled away from something else. I mean, right. We've got to look at this, and we've got to look at it seriously.
We might take calls on that. In fact, we can. I'll take that call, Jamie, in a second, because Victor's been hanging for a long time. I want to do justice to that. Victor's in Westminster. Your question, briefly, if you can, because I want to go back to crime. Victor, sir, you're on the radio. Morning.
Morning to both of you.
Yep.
I'm a minicab. Basically, I'm doing the same service as a black cab, and yet we are being discriminated against. We can't use bus lanes. We pay congestion charge, while a black cab can be a 15-year-old diesel on the roads. We can't use LTNs. We can't use Blackfriars Bridge, and so on, all because of these policies of this mayor. My question is, if we're doing the same service as the black cabs, why we can't not pay congestion charge, and why we don't have the same rights as a black cab?
For the many minicab drivers out there, your response, Susan Hall.
Victor, I have to say that whilst you may be taking people from A to B, I have to shout out for the black cabs. They have to pay well over £70,000 for their vehicles. They are wheelchair compliant. They have to do the knowledge, which takes years and costs them an absolute fortune. Their insurance costs a fortune for their vehicles. They are now not allowed in lots of LTNs. Bishopsgate has been closed, and I would say where buses go, black cabs should go.
But not minicabs.
No, not...
Okay.
At this stage,
clarify.
no, because the black cab is, I mean, everybody thinks we do they say to me, everybody says we do the same job. Black cabbies have to go through stringent tests. Okay. And I believe that if they get certain points on their licence, that they then can't do it. I mean, they can
lose their cab if it's dirty or unclean.
I know. So they are in a completely different ballgame.
Are you an Uber user?
No.
You don't use Uber?
No.
Okay. Lastly, cycle lanes. There's a lot of concern among drivers, minicab drivers, black cab drivers. There's too many cycle lanes in some of our main. Would you ever consider digging some of them up and returning them to carriageway?
Certainly the Park Lane one would be one of my first things. That was virtue signalling, Nick, if ever there was. There's a cycle lane in the park right next door, but no, Sadiq Khan thought in his wisdom putting one in Park Lane would send a signal. The only signal it sends is that if you want to drive down that way, you're going to be stuck in traffic for hours. It's ludicrous, along with these 20-mile-an-hour zones on key roads. Utterly ridiculous. And I would stop that as soon as I could.
Let's come back to strong words. Thank you. Come back to policing. Jamie in Camden. Jamie, your question.
Hi, I'm one of the founders of Reclaim These Streets who successfully sued the Met over their treatment of us at the Vigil. And wondering, given Susan's publicly supportive of Cressida Dick, and you were very critical when she was removed from her position, everything that's come out in the Casey review, that she's just paid the women that they arrested at the Vigil, that they lost to us in high court, would you have kept her in her position given everything that's come out?
Susan Hall.
Right. I think it's wrong to talk about a specific person. The particular thing that I was critical of at the time, and if you look back to it, you will see, was the way in which Sadiq Khan got rid of Cressida Dick. In any other case, I would suggest it is likely that he would have been in a tribunal. It was utterly disgusting.
I think Jamie's point is that, knowing what we know now, though, was it right that Dame Cressida was relieved of command?
The things are going very wrong in the Met. Sadiq Khan blames everybody for anything going wrong. Perhaps
would you have kept her in place?
I don't know, is the honest answer. It wasn't my position to either keep her in place or not. But if you read the Sir Tom Windsor's report on how he got rid of her, it was a disgrace. He is a misogynist. I mean, you can go to my Twitter account and see a video of how he treats members in the London Assembly of all parties. Has he been misogynistic
towards you?
Yes, he just dismisses us, and that if you read Sir Tom's account, you will see that the way she was treated was appalling, and nobody in any job should be treated so badly.
All right. If he's listening, Mayor Sadiq Khan, do ring in. You'll go to the top of the queue, but the likelihood of that was Australia qualifying for the Rugby World Cup. Jamie, thank you for that. He won't engage me for whatever reason, Susan Hall. Emmanuel is in Hackney. Emmanuel, go ahead. You're on the radio. Good morning.
Thank you. Hello, Nick. I'm a black young Londoner, a very concerned black young Londoner. And my question is, trust and confidence when it comes to policing is at rock bottom. And we have a large proportion of residents and local community members in Hackney as well as across London.
Yep.
And my question is, what is Susan Hall's plan, right, to address trust and confidence with the black community, because she has definitely delivered a few rhetorics and dogma around the black community.
OK, let's move on. We have addressed that, but it's a fair point. Emmanuel, thank you. Trust, you'll probably know, it's not at rock bottom, but it's very, very low with the Met. What are you going to do?
Yes, it is. To quickly answer Emmanuel's point, if you're a black lad, you are 4 times more likely to be stabbed than if you're a white lad. That's why I have brought this up before, because we can't just walk by and ignore this. We have to look at this. And too many people shy away from this, and for the reasons I'm lambasted for saying this. But why should a black mother send her kid out in the morning frightened that they might get stabbed? Because the statistics are, as a black lad, you are more likely to. And bearing in mind, I think you only make up 13% of Londoners. That is a very, very high number. So it needs to be addressed. How
will you get trust back? Sorry to talk over you. How would you get trust? You've given the background, which I get, but trust.
Well,
how will you
I
get it back?
need to,
Yes,
because,
indeed.
trust back in the Met. I think if people start seeing police officers around more, if you were talking about your community, Emmanuel, I think if police officers, especially for youngsters, I've seen it happen, and it works when they set up football teams. And when youngsters from all communities say play football with the police, etc., and see that actually they're just normal human beings, the police officers, and the police officers see that these
teams?
No, it comes down to things like engaging with them in sport or engaging them with other things. Because then, Nick, the dynamics change. Okay. Both sides see that they're normal human beings. Sometimes they're kids from very difficult backgrounds, and it makes a difference.
Emmanuel, you'll be the last caller. 2 questions via email, if I may. Richard in Barnes, how concerned are you over the ongoing closure of Hammersmith Bridge? Who should fund the repair work so the backlogs of traffic all over West London will ease? Just to remind the listeners, I'm sure you're aware it's been closed to traffic since April 2019, Susan Hall.
Yes.
How would you resolve that?
OK, I talked to Greg Hands about this a lot, the party chairman.
He's also local MP, so
yes.
Just to remind everyone. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yep.
And who is very concerned. Clearly, we must look to see if there are other bits of funding that we could put in there. It is, the traffic congestion there is appalling. And sometimes, even if it is not our responsibility, we must look at moving London traffic. London is coming to a grinding
halt. How much is it going to cost to put the bridge right? Do we know?
I don't have the figures in front of me at the moment, but it's certainly something that a mayor needs to be looking at, not just
we
saying...
need to get it opened. 4 years.
Absolutely. No,
pardon
I
my
agree.
language, bloody ludicrous.
No, I know. Greg Hands is adamant that we need to see what we can do.
Claire in Twickenham, would you ever go swimming in the Thames?
No.
Why?
I don't like... I will swim in a nice swimming pool. I don't like going in the sea, and I certainly wouldn't go in a river anywhere.
All right. And lastly, this comes in from Piers in South East London. Do you support a toll for the Blackwall Tunnel as well as the Silvertown Tunnel? This is apparently something Sadiq Khan has recently confirmed.
Yes, this is an interesting one. Apparently, it was always agreed that it would be charged, because TfL say, this is what I've been told. I'm looking into it now. TfL have always been told that if they just toll one, it'll hardly get any use and it won't relieve the Blackwall Tunnel.
Right.
So I need to check that. I need to look into it. And apparently it was always agreed that it would be tolled.
Look into what, with a view to try and reverse it? Or?
Well, no, look, possibly. I don't know. I'm looking into it. I know it's something that I've been asked a good few times, but that is the rationale, I believe, from TfL. So I've got to delve deeper into that.
I'm sure we'll talk again on Call Hall. Thank you for your debut here. Susan Hall is the Conservative candidate for the Mayor of London. Remember, also a member of the London Assembly. I must stress that election a few months ago. Thanks for your time. 9:31 LBC News headlines.
Conservative mayoral candidate Susan Hall has told LBC she's not comfortable with HS2 rising by billions of pounds. The Prime Minister could drop the Birmingham to Manchester part of the route, with potential changes in London as well. Susan Hall told Nick she would prefer it if the line came to Euston, but understands the taxpayers' money must be considered. A court's found Donald Trump lied about his wealth to get cheaper loans. A judge in New York says it happened when the former president was building his property